What up, people? The special night tonight. I'm cooking thug steak. It's my steak, and I cook it like a fucking thug, and I eat it like a fucking thug. So vegans, get away right now. Just, I don't give a fuck. Close the video and just leave. Because if you don't like meat, you don't want to see cut meat, just go. Those who do like it, those who do like a steak, stick around because it's going to be fun. This is my recipe. So the first thing starts off with good meat, all right? So I'm out here in the supermarket, and they got tons of meat. You can see behind me, the whole counter is full of meat. But meat's all about the color. You need some fat in there. A lot of people like tenderloin. It's very lean. Yeah, okay, tenderloin's good. I used to eat tenderloin for a long time. I'm now bored of tenderloin. I need a little bit of flavor. I need a little bit of fat in the meat. So I picked up some very nice New Zealand ribeye. So I'm gonna go cook this New Zealand ribeye. It's got a nice color and good bit of fat in there. We're just gonna cook off, render off. You don't have to eat the fat, but you need it to impart the flavor. So meat's done, and now we go get some sides, and then you're gonna see me cook this bitch. So when our meat's ready, we've got some cloves of garlic, we've got some nice rosemary, and we've got some dried sage. I'm going to use these to season our oil when we cook it. So hang tight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a griddle, and we're going to get this lovely asparagus, this beef tomato, and some pineapple on that. And we're going to griddle it up nice and fine. So the sides for tonight are going to be some nice mashed potatoes. So what you got to do is you got to cut them up real small. The smaller you cut them, the quicker they cook. If you have fuckloads of time, fine, like drop the whole potato in. But for an even cook, quicker cook, cut them small. Make sure your water is boiling and season the water. So chuck in some salt, okay? Because the potatoes are going to absorb that salt. They need flavor. Do not have bland mashed potatoes, right? So chuck in some salt, get the water boiling, and get the potatoes in. So what you want to do is you want to then season the oil you're going to cook the steak in, right? So you get a pan, put in a little bit of olive oil. I got my garlic in there. I've got my dried sage. I've got my rosemary. I'm going to let it just very slowly heat up. It's got to be a very slow heat because I don't want my garlic to burn just yet. I'm going to cook it out, but when the steak goes in. Right, it's a very low heat, and I put in a nice big blob of butter in there. So just let that warm up and let the oil get seasoned. Then we're going to cook the steak. So before you get the steak on, you get a griddle pan and you make it really hot, like smoky hot. I just put a few drops of water on that and they sizzled up nicely. So I'm going to get some of my sides done on that. So some of my sides, beef tomato, just cut in half, just like that, on the griddle. Then you flick in some pineapple, because I love grilled pineapple. I hate raw pineapple. So if no one's a pineapple lover here, that's fine. No love lost. But I do love a bit of char on my pineapple. And we stick in some asparagus, and that's that. And let them nicely sizzle off. So the secret to a good steak is the following. It's got to be really dry. Like people who get it wet, wash it up and put oil all over it and stick it into the pan. No, you want a nice char to it. And the only way you're going to get cut if it's really dry. So this steak's been sitting out. It's at room temperature. You do not want it frozen or cold. It's a big mistake. And you got to make sure your oil is really hot. And once your oil is really hot and the butter's browned out a little bit, you grab your steaks and you flick them in and you push them down, because that's what's going to make even contact with the base, and they'll cook out nicely. There we go. Now you just leave it the fuck alone. Do not mess with that steak. Just let it cook on one side, about 3-4 minutes each. Then we do a flip. So while that steak's cooking off, you just want to take your pineapple and just turn it over. Look at that lovely char on that. Oh man, it's going to be so good on that steak. And yeah, just let your veg cook out. Just want to get it charred. The asparagus is going to soften up. The tomato is going to char out. I'm not even touching that tomato. And that's it. And the steak's cooking up. That's all you got to do. Now, a lot of people are going to say, like, what's the best sort of way to cook it? I like my steak medium rare. I don't like it well done. And how do you tell? Well, you have to touch it. You have to know, like, what is the required level of doneness. And there's a little trick. I'm going to tell you in a bit what that trick is, of how you can tell what that level of doneness is by just touching the steak. But for now, we're going to let it cook. Boiled up, you stick in a big lump of butter and you just mash them up. That's all it takes. As long as your water's salted, you chuck in the butter and you just mash it up and it gets nice and creamy. And keep adding more butter. Some people add milk, cream. I just use butter. I like it nice and rich. I'm sorry, I love my butter. So that's being mashed right now. Ready to flip our steak. Got a pair of nice tongs. Just flip it over. There you go. You can see some nice color on it. And you're probably not going to get that color if the steak's going to be wet. So you have to make sure it's dry. Got a nice crust with our seasoning on it. And just flip it over. That's it. Just like that. And let it cook. Checking it. It's still kind of red. But it's cooking out nicely. Alright. Pineapple's got some nice char in it. But I need some more. So I've just stuck on some fresh pineapple. That asparagus is grilling nicely. It's just sort of marinated in a bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, and that's it. It's cooking out nicely. I don't need to do much. Let that cook out. Tomatoes are fine as they are. And that steak's cooking well. For about 4 minutes on each side. I turned it over once. And the reason I'm not basting anything, a very good reason, because I want to see the juices come up. When the juices rise to the surface, your steak is done. Right? And that's not blood, that's some other chemical, I don't know what the hell they call it. But it's just about to come up, so I'm going to stop the cook in another minute or so. And by then my other things should be ready as well. So this is coming along just fine. Maybe another minute, 2 minutes max, and we're done with this steak. And you can turn the oil around, so make sure you catch some of this fat, and you can render that out. And that's that. Simple. You can see juices rising to the top. This steak is donezo. So now I'm going to remove it and I'm just going to let it rest. Now here's a tricky bit. Here's where a lot of people are going to screw up. They're going to eat that steak right now. Don't do it. Don't do it. Anthony Bourdain, this really cool chef, God rest his soul in peace, he said, just leave it alone. Don't touch that steak. Don't look at it. Just leave it alone. Because it's cooked out. You have to give it some time for the fibers and everything else to open up. So you just leave that steak the fuck alone. That's it. The steak is plated up. I've got the pineapple, the asparagus on it. Got mashed potatoes. I got the tomato over there. But the pièce de résistance, which I absolutely love, are these burnt pieces of garlic, which are absolutely beautiful. They're actually soft, tender. They've lost their strong flavor, and they're absolutely beautiful on my steak. And I'm going to eat them with it. And that's that. With that, the steak is done. That's got all the flavor in it. You don't need any peppercorn sauce. You don't need any mustard. You need nothing. You just need a good piece of meat, some nice sides, and you sorted. So I'm going to sit back and eat the steak. So here is quite literally a rule of thumb to test for steak doneness. So you take your thumb and you touch your index finger. Now what you're looking at is the fleshy part of your palm. So when you touch these two fingers, your thumb and your index, the fleshy part of your palm, when you touch it, that is exactly what a rear should be. You touch the middle finger with the thumb. Now this fleshy part, you push it. That's you looking roughly towards medium. And then onwards and onwards. By the time you get to the last finger, your steak is well done. Don't fucking eat it, put it in the trash. So you want to keep it here. You want to keep it here, maximum here. So this fleshy part of your palm, that's the secret. So here's the steak. It's cooked to about a medium, and that's absolutely fine with me. That's it. Eat this motherfucker.